Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cocktails and Conversation, brought to you by Network On, America's very excellent internet. I am so glad that we finally got to do this. For those of you who are following along at home and on the Zooms, we tried to do this in April, and there was a COVID surge, and out of an abundance of caution, we moved it to the fall, and I'm happy to say that we have not had a surge yet, and may this not be a super spreader event. We are really, really grateful to DJ Neekola, who is truly an extraordinary person. Thank you for spinning us into this part of our production. Thank you. That was pretty amazing. You can hear her life story when we're done. It's pretty amazing. And obviously our star performers, the Band of Heathens from Austin, who, if you don't know them, you will be going to Spotify and listening to everything they ever wrote after this performance. If it's your first time joining Network On, a very warm welcome to you. The whole thing behind Network On, it's a public service and education campaign to celebrate America's excellent internet. It started here. The innovation that created a connected world started here, and it has connected us in good times and in bad times. It really, certainly for many of us music fans, kept us sane through the pandemic. It also helped us work and helped us keep connected with loved ones. And we thought it was an extraordinary moment in time to actually teach people how it works. So part of this is dessert and part of this is vegetables. So Band of Heathens is definitely the dessert, and DJ Neekola. And we hope that you also tune in to Network On to learn about the amazing innovation and investment and expertise that put the whole thing together and that keeps it running so that we can all remain connected. As we know, when COVID hit, bands and artists were hit hardest because they depend on live performances and connections with their fans. And Band of Heathens was incredibly innovative in keeping the band going and keeping them connected to their fans and really unleashing incredible artistry and creation through their Supper series and their, is it Unplugged? The album series that came out with it. And they were able to do that because, to not put too fine a point on it, the internet stayed up. And it's kind of an amazing thing to think about what would have happened to us all if the internet hadn't stayed on. But it did, and we are all the better for it. So I'm pleased to get off the stage, because you'll be very happy to have me get off the stage, and introduce Sebastian de la Peña from Lloyd Doggett's office, who is also a musician, in addition to being a digital director, and I'm going to hand it over to him. Thank you so much for joining us. He also plays guitar and bass.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll go ahead and dive right into questions here. DJ Neekola, that was a great performance. Thank you for that. Tell us about your background and what drew you to DJing.
Hello. Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is an honor to be here today. So my background is, my family was in music. My mother was an 80s rock guitarist, and I kind of followed her around in her gigs in New York and Greenwich Village and around, wherever she would perform. And I was like, I want to do that. And then I don't sing very well, so rock wasn't my thing. So I ended up finding electronic music and pop. And through a series of events, I tried to, produce it first. It didn't work. And then I found DJing through some mentors. And then I was like, wow, and I became obsessed. And then I just continued to DJ day and night, and here I am.
One of the most joyful things to happen during the pandemic was the rise of virtual dance parties or club nights. How were you DJing in person prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? Were you doing any live streaming before?
So I was doing 0 live streaming before. I was actually performing about 4, sometimes 5 times a week. I was working a lot, a whole lot. But yeah, zero live streaming though before the pandemic.
How did you approach performing once it became clear live music was put on pause for a bit? What became easier and what was more challenging for you?
Well, I stopped performing altogether. That was quite depressing because I really, enjoy to connect with people and, be able to see people and hug them and have them say thank you and things like that. That's something that's really magical about live performances. And well, when it stopped, I was like, actually became quite depressed. And I was like, this is really hard. What do I do with my life now? And I found our internet. Thank goodness for the internet because through first Zoom, all these Zoom dance parties. That was my first real virtual client. And it was honestly in the beginning quite tough. I mean, it was fun at first. I would get online and I would connect with people virtually and I'd feel all this energy and I would see people dancing. And then when it was time to finish, I would turn off my computer and I was alone. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I've heard you've DJ'd in the metaverse. Can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, that was super cool. So I'm kind of a cyber geek. I actually, before I started music, I was in cybersecurity. And I got to be super geeky during the pandemic. And I got to play with the Oculus, and I got to play with the virtual DJ equipment, and I got to perform in the metaverse. And, back then there was like a lot of different metaverses. And a couple that I had performed in live, one was called an alt space. We would create our own little nightclubs in there, and I would become a little avatar. And I would perform for a bunch of little avatars. And it was super cute, and it was quite interactive. And I also performed for a virtual Burning Man as well, which was super cool.
How has the use of the internet and live streams affected your business model long term?
It's completely changed. Yeah, it's basically, I made all my money from live events, like, from the White House Correspondents' Dinner to, the Rammys here, all these different types of events. And then now, like, I had to look, I actually don't perform that much anymore. I mean, I do, now and then, but I spend part of my time here in the Dominican Republic because I can perform online. Thank you. So I perform and I go out and I kite surf. And it's quite amazing and it's quite a change because I realized during the pandemic that I was a workaholic and my lifestyle wasn't very healthy. So now I have a very balanced life and I can do what I love, but then also be a human afterwards.
Yeah. We love to hear that. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the audience? I do have a couple more questions, but I want to open it up for the audience if y'all have any questions.
What are the benefits of doing it the way you're doing it? I know that the death of live events, though we're doing one now, is emotionally difficult, but you can reach so many more people with your art now. Like, what are the things that are unexpected in doing it in this new way?
Great question. There's a lot of great benefits, things that I didn't realize. When I was performing, I was mostly performing in the East Coast. Now I've got an international following, and it's because a lot of people will follow me online, and instead of giving me a hug, they follow me on Instagram, or they follow me on TikTok. And now all of a sudden I have fans around the world. And it's opened up a new world for me as far as like music production now too. So before where I was only a performer, now I have more time to actually be a creative and produce music. And I start to meet clients from around the world that find me that wouldn't see me in DC, but they would see me online. And so I have a whole new way of making money through my creative self.
Thank you. And you have a really strong visual brand, including different personas for different gigs. How did you adapt this for streaming?
That was actually easier. I didn't have to, there's these little cool things on Snapchat where you can put makeup on for you. so sometimes I'd be a little lazy and I would just put on a wig and then have Snapchat do my makeup for me. And it was great because then after I would just rip off the wig and then go play with my cat. so it was a lot easier. But now I got to do all of this in real life because this is a lot of work.
Can you tell us more about your CGI dancers? How do you choreograph them and incorporate them into your full set?
Yeah, so I was having a funny conversation earlier with somebody about how, when this first started, this was like a new thing, and people would learn to dance by pressing the buttons on their controllers. And when you're out there, you don't, you're trying to do like this, but instead you're doing this, and like people are out there dancing, looking really funny. So it was really comical. So it was kind of hard to coordinate. It was just depending, you're instead of using your limbs, you're using a controller. So it took a little bit of time.
All right, thank you so much, DJ Neekola, everyone.
Thank you.